The clock ticks softly in the dim glow of a late-night bar, its rhythm swallowed by the low hum of conversation and the clink of ice against glass. A woman sits at the counter, her fingers tracing the rim of a half-empty martini, her eyes scanning the room with a quiet intensity. She's not just looking, she's calculating. Her posture is relaxed, but there's a sharpness in her gaze, like a chess player sizing up the board. Across the room, a man leans against the wall, his casual smirk betraying a confidence that's just a touch too polished. He's watching her too, but not like the others. His stare isn't hungry or desperate. It's deliberate, almost predatory, as if he knows something the rest of the room doesn't. The tension between them is invisible but electric, a silent negotiation unfolding in glances and gestures. Who's playing who? That's the question hanging in the air, thick as the smoke curling from a forgotten cigarette. This isn't just a bar scene, it's a battlefield, and the stakes are higher than anyone here is willing to admit. What makes her lean forward, tilt her head, and let a slow smile spread across her face? What makes him step closer, his words measured but laced with intent? The answer lies in a game older than time, one that Niccolo Machiavelli, the master of power and strategy, understood better than most. This isn't about love or lust at first sight. It's about decisions, hers, his, and the intricate dance of signals that decide who wins and who walks away. The bar is just the stage, but the script? That's written in centuries-old principles of power, psychology, and human nature. Tonight, you'll learn how women really decide who they let into their orbit, and it's not what you think. It's not about looks, money, or charm alone. It's about something deeper, something Machiavelli would have grinned at from his desk in Renaissance Florence. Buckle up, because we're diving into the art of influence, the psychology of attraction, and the strategies that make her choose you. The night outside is cool, the city streets buzzing with life, but inside this bar, the world narrows to a single moment. She adjusts her bracelet, a subtle move that draws his eye. He notices, but doesn't react, not yet. He's waiting, reading her like a book he studied before. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions." But here's the twist. She's no victim. She's playing the same game, and she's just as cunning. Women, contrary to what pop culture sells you, aren't passive players in this dance. They're strategists, gatekeepers, and architects of their own desires. To understand how she decides, you need to see the world through her eyes, not the Hollywood version, but the raw, unfiltered truths of human instinct. Let's step back to Florence, 1513. Machiavelli's pen scratches across parchment, his mind dissecting the nature of power. In The Prince, he lays bare the mechanics of influence. To win, you must understand what moves people, what they fear, what they crave. He wasn't writing about dating or attraction, but his principles apply to every human interaction, including the one unfolding in this bar. A woman's decision to let someone close isn't random. It's a calculation rooted in survival, status, and subconscious drives. She's not just choosing a partner for the night, she's choosing someone who fits into her world, someone who signals strength, reliability, or intrigue. And the man who understands this doesn't just stumble into her favor, he engineers it. So, what's the first move in this game? It's not what you say, it's how you carry yourself. Confidence isn't loud. It's quiet, unshakable certainty. The man at the bar doesn't fidget or glance at his phone. His shoulders are squared, his movements deliberate. He's not trying to impress her, he's signaling that he doesn't need to. Machiavelli would call this virtue the ability to shape your own destiny through skill and will. She notices this not because he's peacocking, but because his presence commands attention without begging for it. Women are wired to spot this kind of strength, not because they're shallow, but because evolution has honed their instincts to seek out men who can navigate the world's chaos. But here's where it gets tricky. She's not just looking for strength, she's testing it. That slight tilt of her head, the way she lets her gaze linger a second longer than necessary, is not an invitation, it's a challenge. Show me you're worth my time, it says. Most men miss this, tripping over themselves to impress or please. They talk too much, laugh too loud, or worse, they freeze. The man who wins doesn't flinch. He meets her gaze, lets the silence stretch just long enough to show he's not rattled, and then offers a comment so sharp it cuts through the noise of the room. That bracelet, he says, his voice low but clear. It looks like it's got a story. It's not a line, it's a hook, vague enough to intrigue, specific enough to show he's paying attention. She smiles, not because he's charming, but because he's playing the game on her level. Machiavelli would approve. He wrote, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves." In this moment, the man is both, cunning enough to read her signals, bold enough to act without hesitation. But this is just the opening move. To understand how she decides, you need to dig deeper into the psychology of attraction, not the surface level fluff of pickup lines, but the primal forces that drive her choices. Women, like men, are shaped by biology and culture, but their decision-making process is often more layered. She's not just evaluating you, she's evaluating the context, your status in the room, the way others respond to you, the subtle cues of your body language. Evolutionary psychology tells us women are drawn to men who display traits of dominance, not in the cartoonish sense of chest thumping, but in the quiet control of resources, attention, or influence. This isn't about money or muscles, it's about social intelligence, the ability to navigate a room and come out on top. In the bar, she's clocking how the bartender nods at him, how the other patrons glance his way. These are signals of social proof, and they matter more than you think. Let's break this down. Imagine the bar as a microcosm of the world. Every interaction is a transaction, every glance a negotiation. She's not just deciding if she's attracted to you, she's deciding if you're worth the risk. Opening up, even for a night, comes with stakes, emotional, social, even physical. Her brain is running a cost-benefit analysis faster than you can blink, weighing your value against the potential fallout. Machiavelli understood this instinctively. He wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can feel." She's judging you by what she sees, not just your face, but the story your presence tells. Are you a man who commands respect? Are you a man who can handle uncertainty? These are the questions her instincts are asking, even if she doesn't consciously articulate them. Now, let's talk about the trap most men fall into: neediness. It's the silent killer of attraction, the guy who hovers, who laughs too eagerly at her jokes, who tries too hard to fill the silence he's signaling weakness, not charm. Women are hypersensitive to this, not because they're cruel, but because neediness screams instability. A man who's desperate for her approval is a man who can't stand on his own. Machiavelli would call this a failure of fortuna, the inability to seize control of your fate. The man at the bar avoids this trap. When she responds to his comment about the bracelet, he doesn't pounce. He leans back slightly, letting her words hang in the air, giving her space to chase the conversation. It's a power move, subtle but devastating. He's not chasing her, she's starting to chase him. This is where the Machiavellian principle of sprezzatura comes in, the art of making the difficult look effortless. He's not trying to impress her, he's letting her impress herself. When she talks about the bracelet, a gift from a friend, she says, with a story she only hints at, he doesn't pry. He nods, offers a sly comment about how gifts always come with strings, and shifts the conversation to something else. He's planting seeds of curiosity, letting her wonder about him. Women are drawn to mystery, not because they're whimsical, but because the unknown signals depth. A man who reveals too much too soon is a book already read. A man who holds back, who leaves gaps for her imagination to fill, is a story she wants to unravel. But mystery alone isn't enough. She's also looking for emotional dominance, not aggression, but the ability to steer the interaction without breaking a sweat. This is where most men falter. They mistake dominance for control, trying to dictate the conversation or push for an outcome. That's a rookie move. True dominance is about guiding the emotional current, not forcing it. When she teases him, saying his drink choice whiskey. Neat is predictable. He doesn't get defensive. He smirks, leans in slightly, and says, predictable's only boring if you're not paying attention. It's a deflection, a challenge, and a flirtation all at once. She laughs, not because it's funny, but because he's matched her energy and raised the stakes. He's leading the dance without stepping on her toes. Let's zoom out for a second. What's happening here isn't just chemistry, it's strategy. Machiavelli taught that power isn't taken, it's given. She's not going to sleep with you because you're the loudest or the flashiest in the room. She's going to choose you because you've created a dynamic where she wants to. This is the heart of Machiavellian attraction. You don't chase, you attract. You don't demand, you inspire. Every move you make, every word, every pause, every glance is a signal that shapes her perception. And the best part? She doesn't even realize she's being influenced. That's the genius of it. Now, let's dive into the psychology of her decision making. Women's attraction is multifaceted, a blend of instinct, emotion, and logic. Evolutionary biologists talk about mate choice as a balance of short-term and long-term strategies. In the short term, she's drawn to traits that signal genetic fitness, confidence, social dominance, physical vitality. In the long term, she's looking for stability, loyalty, and resourcefulness. But here's the catch. Her brain isn't always conscious of this split. She's not sitting there with a checklist, ticking off boxes. Her instincts are doing the heavy lifting, guided by cues you are sending whether you know it or not. Take body language, for example. Studies show that women are far more attuned to nonverbal signals than men. The way you stand, the angle of your shoulders, the steadiness of your gaze, these speak louder than your words. In the bar, she's not just hearing what he says, she's reading how he says it. His voice is steady, not rushed. His hands are relaxed, not fidgeting. When he moves closer, it's not an invasion but a natural progression, like the tide coming in. These are signals of emotional control, and they hit her subconscious like a dart on a bullseye. But it's not just about you, it's about the environment. Women are hyper-aware of social dynamics. She's not just watching you, she's watching how others react to you. If the bartender lingers a second longer when pouring your drink, if the guy next to you gives you a nod of respect, if the room seems to orbit around you just a little, she notices. This is why Machiavelli's emphasis on reputation is so critical. The vulgar crowd always is taken by appearances, he wrote, and the world consists chiefly of the vulgar. Build a reputation, even in a single room, and you've already won half the battle. The man at the bar doesn't need to boast about his job or his car. His presence does the talking. The way he carries himself suggests he's someone worth knowing, and that's enough to tip the scales. Let's talk about conversation now, because this is where the game gets nuanced. Most men think attraction is about what you say, clever lines, funny stories, or impressive facts. Wrong. It's about how you make her feel. Words are just the vehicle. When she talks, he listens, not just nodding along, but really hearing her. He picks up on the subtext, the little hints she drops about her life, her desires, her fears. When she mentions a trip she took last summer, he doesn't jump in with his own travel story. Instead, he asks a question that digs deeper. What was the one moment on that trip you can't stop thinking about? It's specific, it's curious, and it pulls her into the conversation. Suddenly, she's not just talking, she's sharing. And that shift, from small talk to connection, is where attraction starts to simmer. This is Machiavellian in its elegance. He's not manipulating her in a sleazy way. He's creating a space where she feels seen, understood, and safe to open up. Safety is a big deal here. Women are wired to seek emotional security, not because they're fragile, but because vulnerability is a risk. If she feels judged or dismissed, her walls go up. If she feels valued and intrigued, those walls come down. The man at the bar knows this, so he's careful with his words. When she teases him again, this time about his jacket, he doesn't get flustered. He laughs, says, "This jacket's been through more than you'd believe," and leaves it at that. Another seed planted, another thread for her to pull. But let's not romanticize this. Attraction isn't all warm fuzzies, it's also about power. Machiavelli knew that power dynamics are at the heart of every human interaction, and the bar is no exception. She's testing him constantly, not out of malice, but because her instincts demand it. Every quip, every playful jab is a probe to see how he handles pressure. Does he crumble? Does he get defensive? Or does he stay calm, turning her tests into opportunities? When she says, "You're pretty smooth, aren't you?" with a raised eyebrow, he doesn't take the bait. "Only when it counts," he replies, his tone light but his eyes locked on hers. It's a power move, asserting control without breaking the playful vibe. She respects it, even if she doesn't say so. This push and pull is the heartbeat of attraction. Women don't want a doormat, but they also don't want a dictator. They want a man who can lead without dominating, who can challenge without threatening. It's a delicate balance, and it's why emotional intelligence is your greatest weapon. The man at the bar isn't just reacting, he's anticipating. He knows her next move before she makes it, not because he's psychic, but because he's studied the patterns of human behavior. Machiavelli would call this prudentia, the foresight to act before the moment demands it. In modern terms, it's game. Let's shift gears and talk about the long game, because attraction isn't just about one night. Even if her decision is for a single encounter, she's thinking about the bigger picture. Women are future-oriented, even in fleeting moments. She's asking herself, consciously or not, what does this man represent? Is he a flash in the pan? Or does he have staying power? This is where Machiavelli's advice on alliances comes into play. "A prince must show himself a lover of virtue," he wrote, "and honor those who are excellent in any art." In other words, align yourself with qualities that endure strength, wit, reliability. The man at the bar doesn't talk about his job, but he drops a hint about a project he's passionate about, something that lights up his eyes. She picks up on it, not because she cares about the details, but because passion signals purpose. And purpose is catnip to the female psyche. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Physical attraction. Yes, it matters. No is not the whole story. Women are drawn to physical cues that signal health and vitality, clear skin, strong posture, a confident stride. But these are amplifiers, not deal breakers. A man who's average looking but carries himself like he owns the room will outshine a chiseled Adonis who's awkward or insecure. The man at the bar isn't a model, but his energy makes him magnetic. He moves with purpose, his smile is genuine, and his eyes don't waver. These are the details she's clocking, even if she doesn't realize it. Machiavelli would say it's about projecting anima, the spark of life that draws others in. But what about the darker side of this game? Machiavelli wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty, and neither should you. Not in a manipulative, unethical way, but in the sense of being strategic. Women are attracted to men who aren't afraid to bend the rules a little, to push boundaries without crossing into cruelty. When she challenges him, saying, "You think you've got me figured out, don't you?" he doesn't backpedal. He leans in, lowers his voice, and says, "Not yet, but I'm a quick study." It's bold, a little risky, and it works because it shows he's not afraid to take a chance. Women respect audacity, not recklessness, but the willingness to step into the unknown and come out unscathed. Let's talk about scarcity, another Machiavellian principle. The value of a thing, he wrote, is as much as it will bring. If you're too available, too eager, your value plummets. The man at the bar doesn't linger too long. After a few minutes of conversation, he excuses himself to talk to a friend across the room. It's not a snub, it's a signal. He's showing her he's not tethered to her approval. She notices, and it shifts the dynamic. Now she's wondering when he'll come back, what he's doing, who he's talking to. Scarcity creates demand, and demand fuels desire. It's not about playing hard to get, it's about being a man with options, a man whose time is valuable. As the night progresses, the dance continues. They talk, they laugh, they challenge each other. He's not trying to close the deal, he's building a connection that feels effortless but is anything but. Every move is calculated, not in a cold, robotic way, but in the way a master painter chooses each brush stroke. He's painting a picture of himself as a man worth knowing, worth choosing. And she's responding, not because she's been tricked, but because he's tapped into something primal, something that resonates with her deepest instincts. Now, let's pull back and look at the bigger picture. This isn't just about one night in the bar. It's about understanding the principles that govern human behavior, principles Machiavelli dissected with surgical precision. Women decide based on a complex interplay of emotion, instinct, and social cues. To win her over, you don't need to be the richest, the best looking, or the smoothest talker. You need to be strategic. You need to understand what drives her, what she values, and how to present yourself as the man who embodies those qualities. It's not about deception, it's about mastery. As the bar starts to empty, the man and the woman are still talking. Their voices lower now, their bodies closer. The tension from earlier has softened into something warmer, but no less intense. She's made her decision, not with words, but with the way she leans into him, the way her laughter comes easier now. He's passed her tests, not because he's perfect, but because he's played the game with skill and subtlety. Machiavelli would nod in approval, his quill pausing over the page. The end justifies the means, he wrote. And in this case, the end is connection, attraction, and the spark of something new. This is the art of influence, the science of attraction, the game of power. It's not about forcing your way into her world, it's about creating a world she wants to step into. You don't need to be a prince or a poet, just a man who understands the rules and plays them well. The bar is closing now, the lights flickering as the last patrons drift out into the night. But for them, the night is just beginning, and somewhere in the shadows of history, Machiavelli is smiling. So, what's the takeaway? You've seen the game unfold, step by step, from the first glance to the final moment. You've seen how a man can shape a woman's decision, not by chance, but by design. This isn't about tricks or gimmicks, it's about understanding human nature, about wielding the tools of influence with precision and respect. If you want to master this game, start by mastering yourself. Study the signals you send, the way you move, the way you speak. Build a reputation, even in a single room. Be the man who doesn't chase, but attracts. Be the man who doesn't demand, but inspires. That's the Machiavellian way, and it's the key to unlocking her decision. Now, here's what I want you to do.